the default for startup is to fail because you need to prove yourself. It's easy to ruin the trust. It's difficult to build the trust. It's just that they do not do much advertising. So communication work still happens. There's public relations, public communication. It's just they do not spend the money to do advertising. We can remove all the hard physical buttons because all the functions can be carried out in the voice command.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming at you from the Motor Valley of Europe, Stuttgart, Germany, this is the Screens Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Seekers, and today I am joined by Victoria Lee, a marketing strategist, brand developer, and photographer. Victoria, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
I'm a marketing strategist, brand developer, and a photographer. I've been working in the automotive industries for over 10 years. By the end of 2021, I was the head of product marketing for a top automaker in China. I took a personal sabbatical to get myself familiar about the newest technology, expand my perspectives about the marketing technology and consumer behavior. I'm very happy to know all of you. Let me explain a little bit more about how I got in touch with you.
Sure.
During my sabbatical, I want to keep myself informed about all the latest technology changes. So I regularly will listen to the digital forums and podcast. So once there's a forum organized by Gasco, and I heard Sylvester, your product strategy director, talk about how the screens business helps other OEMs, manufacturers, or to do a better competitive analysis about the in-car infotainment system much more conveniently and much more comfortably. And that piqued my interest. So I went to LinkedIn and found his profile, introduced myself, and that eventually led me to know about you.
Oh, very cool. We're really happy to have you on the show. We talk about cars and technology a ton on this show. And you're right. It's because of what we do. We are the world's leading HMI benchmarking solution. Obviously, we have experts within that category. But one thing that I don't think we talk about enough on this show, or at least something different, is marketing automotives. And that's your specialty. So you have, as you said, over a decade experience in automotive marketing in China. Can you talk a little bit about what your experience in China was, automotive marketing? Like, what was the difference in marketing to the Chinese audience compared to maybe a European or North American audience?
Okay. Thanks for the question. Now, first, let me talk about the marketing concept.
Sure.
Now, instead of talking about it as an educational point of view, but I think that's when we talk about the marketing in the world, fundamentally, it's about the product price place, which we usually talk about is the retail channel, and then the promotion, which we usually talk about as the marketing communication. So in my most recent job as the head of product marketing, that's my role leans more towards the product side. So whenever we build a brand, or no matter what is a single product or it's a group of products, there's the critical questions we need to answer ourselves is that how does this product can add value for the customers? Where will the customers will shop? And how can we reach to our customers in a more effective way? Now, in my most recent job, that is, I launched I was part of the group of fantastic people launching a electric vehicle, and that is the first iconic nameplate we are to launch in China market. Now, because in automotive industry, owning an automobile means so much for the consumer's life. Whether it's about showing my face, like I say, that I can drive a premium car or luxury car. I can invite my grandpa sitting in the back seat and have a comfortable ride. Or is it about to say, okay, I'm running a business. I need to meet with my customers. I need to take them to the airport or not. So in whatever different environment, the car means a lot. is indeed the third living room for people's life. So regarding to the electric vehicle, is that when we launched the vehicle at that time, a lot of things has changed. So you probably have heard that Tesla establishes Shanghai Gigafactory in 2029, and then the first made in China Tesla Model 3 was rolled off the assembly line in 2020, early 2020. And just like Tesla, what Tesla has done in other markets, they used the direct-to-consumer model. And in China, the other startup like 𝗽𝗲𝗿𝗁 and 𝗽𝗲𝗿𝗁, they kind of adopted a similar model. So not only the product has been changed, but also the place where we retail the product has changed, and that impacted about say what kind of a price will be better, like can use the price to convey our positioning in a market and find the consumer target consumer that works for them. So a lot of things has been changed. I think that's marketing work is never like a one shot, and that needs the consistency, long-term work to build the brand. Yeah, I will stop here and see whether any following questions.
Oh, no. I think you bring up some good points, especially, when you talk about Tesla opening up the Gigafactory, I believe 2019, right? Rolls that right out in 2020. Whenever Elon Musk was talking about anything, he usually, well, I don't know whenever, but he has been known to have said that his biggest competitor for Tesla is going to be coming out of China. And one of the craziest things about it, and I don't know how many people are completely aware about the electric vehicle market, but China currently accounts for, at least in 2022, it was 58.7% of the global EV market, which is crazy. That's a crazy amount. I mean, Europe is second, and it's 25.
Yes.
Yeah, which is that's complete domination. So when it comes to automotive marketing, China seems to be the prize in this, because if you can establish your brand as the dominant, brand in China, then you could potentially, define the market for, global EVs, which is just fascinating to me, especially since people don't necessarily always associate it with marketing and how important marketing is in order to do that. What do you think about that? I mean, do you think there's a possibility for one brand maybe to become dominant? Or you mentioned that they've got competitors. I know BYD, like as you talked about with pricing, was very similarly priced to Tesla, correct? Yeah.
Let me share with you some of the key facts about China market and how that affects the automotive industry change.
Oh, please do. Yeah.
Transformation in China. So, as you know, China is one of the most populous country, right? We have I think India probably is the second, and maybe next year India will be more populous than us. So to a certain extent, if we look at the data, is that China aims to develop a sustainable economy. Well, when we talk about a sustainable economy, it does not mean just about reducing the greenhouse emissions, reaching the carbon neutral, but also about developing the economy in a way that is beneficial for people's life. So this is the macroeconomic environment that people need to. I want people to take away to understand it. So Tesla is so far is still the only foreign brand that owns 100% of its venture in China. A lot of other brands that has been invested by foreign brand is still maintains like a JV joint venture. Now, when we look at what Tesla has been doing, NIO has been doing, and 𝗽𝗲𝗿𝗁 has doing, I have some reflections. Now, if we talk about these startups with the entrepreneurship spirit, what kind of entrepreneurship will be in the will survive and thrive in the market? Now, usually we talk about the two types of entrepreneurship. One is about the lifestyle entrepreneurship that majorly offering their product and services that's to meet the needs of a certain geographic location in a relatively limited place. And then another entrepreneurship style is the high growth entrepreneurship. Such high growth entrepreneurship that they kind of like at the beginning of their startup, they are willing to lose money, but the goal is more about the scalability. That means to take the bigger you have, the bigger market share you have, that is easier for you to achieve like the rolling effect, that's an even bigger market share. And I kind of think that's in China with the macro environment, like advocating that we have the clean energy, a lot of investment has been in the new energy development sector. EV has become a hot topic at the time, and the investors are putting their bet on such startups. It turns out that such startups run their business kind of like the high growth entrepreneurship. That means the goal first is to earn the market share. Profit may come later. So that's one observation in my as well as my reflection in examining the China's automotive industry.
Yeah. So sustainability, you believe, is a very, very big factor when it comes to maybe automotive decision making.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can give you another example. Now, for example, the new energy vehicle. When we talk about a new energy vehicle, what do people think of? Is it a hybrid? Is it a plug-in hybrid, or is it an electric vehicle? Now, even the same term has gone through changes in the industry involvement. For example, Shanghai. I live in Shanghai. Shanghai is a city with over 24 million people. Now, in the news, you probably have heard this. Shanghai is a prosperous city, but you probably have not heard about this, that Shanghai is also one of the top 20 cities globally that are at the risk of a sea high level change. So if a sea high level changes, we, along with other top cities in United States, we are at a risk. So that will be the flooding, which will trigger a lot of bad changes. So in our Shanghai city, we in 2019, up to 2022, if you buy a battery electrical vehicle, you own it, you will have the license plate that's kind of free of charge. Although that when you in the end, like after 5 years, you no longer want to own that vehicle, you can send the vehicle back to, you can sell the vehicle, and then the license, the free of charge license plate will no longer be there. Now, in this year, starting from this year, the plug-in hybrid vehicle purchase of a plug-in hybrid vehicle will no longer have the free license plate. So that means that if you want to have a free license plate, the choice you have is a battery electrical vehicle. And to tell you the truth, bidding for a license plate in Shanghai is really difficult.
Really?
Yeah. I was lucky at that time when I purchased my petrol vehicle. I won the bidding just once in 1 month. Some of my friends, they have done the bidding for 6 months, 2 years, and they still did not win a license plate.
So wait, hold on.
You see,
I'm really curious about this. So this is something I'm unaware of, I believe. You bid on license plates? Is this like personalized license plates, or are these just okay?
Personal. Okay. Purchase personal license plate.
But it's really difficult to get. And
it's really difficult to get.
So there's an advantage if you get an electric vehicle, in a way.
Yes. Yeah. If you own an electric vehicle, the tax incentive, certain on the ownership tax that will be evaded. License plate will be free of charge at this moment. We do not know how the policy, how the government incentives will change in the future. But at this moment, this is what we what we have known for the regulatory or always for the incentive. Similar. I think not only in China but also in European countries like in Norway, in Iceland, like for clean energy use, both a lot of market has introduced various types of incentives to help people own a vehicle, electric vehicle, as well as incentives to build the infrastructure to make the ownership experience much more easier. Instead of worrying about the range anxiety, you can find the charging port easily. Now, in Shanghai, for any new build, the public parking lot, you will find that there's a minimum 10% of the parking lot that will have the charging port equipped. Some of the parking lot will have 100% of their parking lot equipped with the charging port.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like that can be a deterrent for people buying EVs right now, is just the ability, or, the availability of actual charging, especially when you're going on a long trip or something like that.
Yes.
It's crazy because, you talk about, sustainability being such a, it's a subsidized thing basically by the government in China. So how does that help you with market? Do you find that people and their attitude, for example, this is going to be weird, but Tesla, since we're talking about Tesla, one of the things that I found that people, at least myself, I was always very adamant about the environmental costs, and I liked electric vehicles and possibly hybrid vehicles because of that. But it seemed like it wasn't really catching on for a while there, when they had early electric vehicles. But what Tesla did was, instead of being not worrying about marketing this as economical or sustainable, but more they made the thing sexy. they even had models.
Yeah, exactly.
So that seemed to be a strategy that definitely worked in North America. Do you find that in China maybe that's less of a thing or more of a thing? Do you think they're more focused on the environmental aspect of it, or this car looks cool?
What your question consists is actually is two questions.
Yes.
Two questions. So back to the timing. When Tesla was launched in China, it was initially I think it was in the year of 2014. It was totally fully imported vehicle, and then they piloted the direct to consumer model, and where the retail price is in a premium shopping malls, tier one cities. Basically, it's all in the tier one cities, and then. By the time it localized the production in Shanghai, and the price dropped significantly, right? So, but because of the initially 5 or 6 years work, people's perception about the Tesla is that it's a premium brand, and that helped people more willing to accept the new Model 3 made in China.
Yeah, because of the
Remember
previously
quality. Perceived quality. Remember previously that if you want to own a Tesla Model 3, you may need to spend like 600,000 RMB. But now you only need to spend like 300,000 RMB. And in fact, Tesla has been keep changing its prices in China market. But the point is that from the beginning, the work has been done. What Tesla has done, they indeed have done the marketing work. The marketing work is happened about the product price and place. It's just that they do not do much advertising. So communication work still happen. There's public relations, public communication. It's just they do not spend the money to do advertising. And by the time when they launched made in China products, some of the premium image has already somehow been built up, and people are more willing to make a try. And one thing I want to share with you is that when the made in China Model 3 was launched, I remember it's about just 1 or 2 months after the launch, they declared that the FSD hardware will be fully equipped. Everybody will have the FSD hardware inside it. And so what they have selectively put more emphasis is about their software capability instead of other things like we have traditionally people have been thinking about it. Okay, I need the premium interior, I need the premium paint, premium seat, those hardware things.
Mm-hmm.
So people kind of getting tolerant to what Tesla has been doing. Now, I want to share with you one story, but this is instead of endorsing any brand, I just want to articulate that for any brand there will be some the best point about your product, what you want to emphasize.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was doing the product marketing work, and I tried to immerse myself, getting to understand those competitors, how they are been doing. So I played a role as a potential buyer, a potential owner, and I joined like a test drive event organized by the media. So I went there. I did not at that time I did not own a EV, but all the other people in the room has been owning either a Tesla or NIO or xiaopeng. And during the chat, it's very funny. So one of the young guy said, "Oh, the NVH, the noise vibration of Tesla was not good."
Hmm.
He said that I once have a time when I just drove away from the expressway. You are driving on the expressway, then you leave the expressway, right? There's an exit. You go to the other route.
Mm-hmm.
I just can hear the sound of another car right after me. So that's in the year of 2020. Now, what Tesla has done at the beginning of 2021, they have launched and upgraded the Model 3. So for all the Model 3, they will have the double layered the front window glass to reduce the noise vibration. So improve people's experience when they are in a car. So you see, in China, I don't know how in other market how the speed of change can be, but in China, the speed of change is really fast.
Yeah.
It's not only about Tesla. It's actually about a lot of brands. You may have heard the news like some brand will launch their vehicle, and then just after 6 months or less than 1 year, even before the new model launch, they offer like the upgrade of a chip. So because how the infotainment system in the car can provide a more valuable experience, it requires the calculating power.
Mm-hmm.
So the chip change will happen, and I think that kind of trend will continue. Like now we have been in the technology domain. There's a transition from the microcontrol units to a system on the chip, which will be available in the market in the nearby future. So I think the competition and the advancements of the technology, the speed of the change will happen much will be unprecedented than before.
Yeah. We've heard that from other guests. They speak about the speed of the Chinese automotive market. I think we've had people on here that basically, I forget who the guest was, but he was saying, they did in 10 years what, it should have taken 30 or something like that. Like that. Yeah. It's just such a quicker pace. Let's talk about balancing like global and local perspectives when it comes to battery electric vehicle marketing. Like what do you think are the main differences? How does the Chinese automotive market different from Europe or North America?
Okay, firstly, I want to say that for any global business to succeed in China, not only China but also in any local markets, that's the best global brands will also be the leading local brands. That means your product offerings, your experience design, that will need to be tailored, tailored with the local consumers' preference, local consumers' aspiration. So there's a lot of market research activities going on. I think that's for every company delivering a product, using the data and insight to see what change is necessary is absolutely critical. It's not only about the hardware part. You may say we have two cars. The car look a little bit different in global versus in China because the China consumers prefer the grille a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more premium. You still want the product look generally same, but what you can make change is about the finish. So there's some minor change about the hardware part. I'll also say another example is about the seats. So Chinese people even for today, a lot of people when they purchase a car, they still consider who will be sitting at my back seat, who will I carry on, who will be sitting in my passenger seat when I have a trip. It could be your spouse, it could be your boss, it could be your customer, it could be your child. So a lot of things need to consider. So instead of driving the car alone, the voice of those people who will be sitting in the car along with the driver through a journey has a weight in supporting your decision making. And then if I talk about the infotainment, the in-car infotainment, I think that's a matter you probably have seen more than me. Is that yeah, your Screen has done a competitive analysis for how many brands? It's nearly 100 brands.
Yeah, we have over 100 cars that are on Screen Studio.
Yeah. So you will know that even for the infotainment design, what kind of the apps you will integrate in your touch screen for people to use, the ecosystem is different. For example, if we talk about the music, in other markets, what you are familiar is probably the Apple Music, Spotify. If you talk about the map, the routing to inform people how to route towards the destination, you probably have the Google, you probably have Apple. Here in China, what people are familiar is about the Baidu, it's about Tencent, it's about Alibaba, right? And when we talk about the music, we are familiar is about the Tencent Music, Wangyi Music. It's a different ecosystem, but how to design an experience, not only for leveraging the strengths of your partner in the ecosystem, but also how to provide an experience that fits your consumers' expectation is critically important. If you don't mind, I can give you another example.
Please, yeah, absolutely.
Now, for example, there are people talk about it, say, okay, we can remove all the hard physical buttons. Because all the functions can be carried out in the voice command.
Yeah.
Okay? So we heard such a voice. Now the question I will ask is that imagine you are taking your customer along with you. How often will you use the voice command?
Not very
another
much.
Example, right?
No.
Another example. If you take your child for a long journey, arriving to a destination, okay, you want your child to be quiet. Okay, you play the videos. They can watch the videos when they sit in the back row seat, or they finally engage. They keep quiet and they fall asleep. Now your child has already fallen asleep on the back row seat.
Yeah.
How often would you use the voice command and ask say, hey Siri, or hey somebody, hey Baidu, can you please help me which places?
Only if it could hear me whisper,
Not
I would.
much, right?
Hey Siri.
So this is about the usage difference, and I think that's in the experience design that we will need to consider
Yeah.
how do people use their car, and some of the needs are already known, some of the needs are unspoken and unknown yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think studies have shown that, hey, people actually do kind of prefer having a mixture of those physical buttons plus those without. What do you think about, besides, you just spoke about the music players and things like that. What are other maybe current trends and preferences in, the Chinese automotive market?
Well, if we talk about the trends, I think fundamentally, some of these has already been talked by other people. The firstly is about the electrification trend. So what I want to emphasize is that it does not mean that the purely battery electric vehicle will occupy all the markets in near term. It takes time. It actually depends on the how the ecosystem has been developed. As I've explained earlier, it's about the sustainable economy. Like China, we have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, up to the tier 6 cities. That you can literally translate it to say that, okay, tier 1 cities, Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, that's the mega cities, and tier 6 cities is some small town. So people's affordability is different. Right? So understandably, that's in the tier 5 or tier 6 cities, that's people want more valuable, more affordable products. And in tier 1, tier 2 cities, people will prefer more about the premium product. But in China, because the diversity of our city environment and also our geographics, for example, if I drive from Shanghai, I took along the famous 318 route to Tibet. I will go through a lot of different geographical challenges. So for any people living in a relatively smaller cities, that along with the government incentive, the guideline of developing the sustainable economy, that's the plug-in hybrid probably will become more mainstream in the tier 1 tier 3 tier 3 up to the tier 6 cities, certain cities. So it takes time. And also in my home country, the China, that we have the infrastructure change quickly. That means the state grid has invested in the charging network. Not only the state grid, but also other companies with the venture capital investments, that's the kind of expanding their charging network availability. So that's one change. Second thing is about the smartness. People have talked about it a lot. So in conjunction with the entrepreneurial speed, which I have mentioned earlier, is that the speed of providing products that is smart enough for consumers to use, I believe the change will be quite quick. Now, to a certain extent, it's really important that for a brand to achieve the scalability in a foreseeable time frame.
Yeah.
And the third thing I want to talk about is that not only the electrification change and intelligence, the smartness. Let's think about how the electrification change and the smartness and the change will trigger or will impact the business model innovation. Now, like for every business, we can build a platform, or we can become a partner in that platform, or we can participate in the ecosystem. So I think there's a lot of room, lot of budding opportunities for the new business models to surface up. For example, like if I look at the screens, what screens do, I think is kind of a business model innovation as well. Is that you have helped other business to do the competitive analysis relatively easier, relatively more comfortably. So if I put myself in the shoes, as a product marketer, I definitely need to understand what other competitors have been doing. I can choose one way is that I read all the primary data available in the internet, and then I go to the physical shop, physical retail place to understand a bit more.
Mhm.
If my time allows me to do that, I definitely will choose this route. But that's because of a lot of brand, it takes to go to visit each physical shop to understand a brand. It takes time.
Mhm.
I may only giving a required duration. I may only have time to visit the most important competitors in my mind, the key competitive set.
Mhm.
But along with the new things change, new model launched, to keep myself informed about the other change. If there's a better way, I definitely would like that way to be available.
Yeah. It's weird. Yeah, you touched on this earlier. Actually, you talked about Tesla, and you talked about perceived quality. What
Yeah.
how important do you think is brand positioning and reputation in the Chinese market?
Okay, that's kind of related to the social media as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's when we run a business, whether it's profit driven or non-profit, we always have a brand.
Mhm.
And that brand is the collective perception, collective impression that people has formed when they come in touch with the business. Now, when we talk about brand positioning, when we talk about positioning, is that to say we want such a group of target consumers to notice us. We want to serve our product to this group of people because our products have something, point 1, 2, 3, that is special, that is more than better than any other competitors in that area.
Mhm.
So that is about the positioning. Now, in the real execution, there are millions of ways to undermine a brand. Okay? So what we want to communicate versus what people's perceptions,
Mhm.
there can be a gap. So the branding work, a lot of the branding work to do is about close the gap, make sure that our positioning is really delivered in a way that people can form the impression about our brand as we have desired.
Mhm.
So like in China, the reputation definitely is important. I think that's it's not only in China but also um, like in any economy that has the social media, that has the economy, digital economy prospered. Is everywhere. That's important
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, it's about the word of mouth. Think about the car purchase. It is such a large investment.
Mhm.
People pull the money from their pocket to buy a product. They want it to be durable. They want it to be interesting. They want it to be fun. They want it to be proud. They can proudly invite their family members, invite their customers, invite their colleagues to join the ride along with them.
Mhm.
So that's how important the brand it is. Now in social media, there are ways that people talk about your brand.
Mhm.
Yeah. We can leave it to other people to shape our brand narrative.
Mhm.
Or is it better that we take a control of the brand narrative? And I think that's for every brand manager, every marketing manager, every chief of marketing officer, that's how we can make our brand narrative in control.
Mhm.
Is definitely a question we will need to think about it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I always think
Yeah.
about Apple as one of the biggest things because, everybody knows
Yeah.
what Apple is. And I think that there's this really cool thing where they did an experiment at Duke University. And I think that this actually, they had a great video on it on YouTube. I think it's Big Think. Please, we should link that in the description if possible because I'm about to talk about this video a lot. But the thing is, they had
Yeah.
participants and they basically showed them the Apple logo. And then they would show them
Yeah.
the IBM logo. And after each one, they would give them a series of tests. And then they always
Yeah.
realized that every single time that they would perform better in tasks that involved creativity, after they saw the
Yeah.
Apple logo, because they branded their brain, basically. They told a story, they positioned themselves, whether through social media or other aspects, because of the amount of marketing and branding that Apple had done. And one of the most amazing things that I'd seen was the Apple users versus Samsung users study that happened, where they
Yeah.
basically hooked them up to an MRI machine. You had people that used Apple products and people that used Samsung products. And they were told positive, negative, and neutral stories about Apple and
Yeah.
Samsung. And what their brain activity for Apple users, anytime they heard a positive story about Apple, it lit up as if it was
Yeah.
a loved one or a family member or something like that kind of brand loyalty. On the flip
Yeah.
side, Samsung users were told positive stuff about Samsung, and they didn't actually have the same kind of positive activity. What did give them the
Yeah.
positive activity was negative stories about Apple, which means, which is crazy. It was less that they liked Samsung products necessarily, or they were loyal to Samsung products, but it was more that Apple had defined this market so much that you basically made your choices whether you were for it or against it. If you were for it, you loved Apple stuff. If you were against it, you bought the competitor, but it still involved Apple and the brand marketing that they had told, the way they imprinted on the brain.
Yes. Yes.
It's crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah, that whole thing kind of is amazing to me. Do you find that kind of brand loyalty exists in China the same that it does maybe in Europe or North America?
Well, firstly, I have not gone abroad since the pandemic, so
Mm-hmm.
my impression about the overseas market may need to be updated. What I can know is all from the internet. Now, talking about the China, the brand loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you one example. Is that if you look at how NIO position itself is as a premium brand, and how what NIO has done to cultivate brand loyalty, and as well as cultivate people to influence their friends, influence their families, like consider NIO for like if they want to buy a second car or third car.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one I remember very vividly is that one of his vice president once talked about. So in a traditional automotive operating model, that we wholesale our products to the dealership, and dealership will do the retail. So how many touch points will consumer have throughout this purchase journey, and then afterwards the ownership journey, right? Now, what NIO has designed is that at the very beginning they have the NIO house. They have they kind of design it in a way. Then after NIO house, they have the like if you are existing owner, you want to change the car, what kind of benefits you will have,
Mm-hmm.
and then now if you're a new owner, you can go to some places where some other business places where other new owners have been operated. For example, the restaurant, and you went there, you show your new badge, you can get a discount.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a special treatment, like a special benefit for being a new owner. So what the VP has mentioned is that the way why they need to design the direct to consumer model is that to increase the touch points with the consumers. The more frequent you get in touch with the consumers at the way they prefer, it's much easier for you to build the brand loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
And also the word of mouth. People will become your brand ambassador to talk about the brand. Now, I can tell you the first time when I got to know NIO
Mm-hmm.
is in person instead of reading from the news. Was that many years ago? Um, I I registered with an art event. So I'm kind, I like to take a photography, and I'm kind of like those artistic design. So I registered a very small group. It's actually a small group artwork event. Now, I received the invitation. Where is the location? It was the NIO house, the first NIO house in Shanghai. So I went there, I pushed the door, and people welcome me and say, please go to the second floor. And then he showed me that this is the area that normally we only have our members, the neo owners, who will come here to enjoy the coffee, enjoy the resting, enjoy reading those books. So the artistic event was organized on that floor in a quiet space. That's how I got to know Neo. So back to your question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I kind of lost it.
No,
What's
it's
your
all good.
question?
I was curious if did that actually improve your opinion of Neo? Did it kind of create a little bit of brand
Yes.
loyalty? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And then when I later on, that's when I drove my vehicle. I like to travel. As I explained, I like to travel far away, go to the mountains. Normally, that's a trip by driving a car instead of taking the public transportation, because in the mountain road, that's the winding road where the beauty is we're on the winding road. So I drove a lot along such routes, and whenever I stopped at expressway, I would notice like what kind of the branded charging pole are available at that expressway station. Okay, you know that's the Neo has the Neo Power swap, for the battery swap services, and I give you another example. The the last time when I visited Tibet, Tibet is kind of beautiful scenery, but difficult to drive. Not even to mention about um, um, the like what kind of difficulties you may come across along the self-drive route. So one day I arrived at a hotel, and I immediately saw a 小鹏's charging pole was there. It's fast charging. And there was another premium hotel, like two streets away. So I talked with other people and said, okay, after dinner, can we go to that premium hotel to see how that hotel looks like? So we went there, and at the entrance, I saw Tesla's charging station. The logo was there. So you will see that for those startups, what they have invested is that because they're the pioneer in this industry, they want to eliminate the pain points, enhance people's customer experience. So they invested a lot to make the overall user experience much more accessible. Now, if you ask me today, does any new brand who enter into China market still need to build their branded charging pole in such a manner? I doubt it. Like because with the infrastructure establishment, the state grid will have more charging posts. Now the startups, the brands they have layouts the charging network. So what is critical is that how you can position yourself like a partner within the ecosystem, partner with different services, and make it more accessible for people who want to use your product.
It's interesting, the brand loyalty aspect of it. My father was very much like that. He was a Ford person, and he would always go to the Ford dealership and he would buy another Ford, and when the other one didn't. And I think it had a lot to do with, like you said, the incentives for being a loyal customer kind of became that thing. He would get a little bit of benefits whenever he traded in this car or whatever. They would pay more for it, whatever. So that was always something amazing. It's really cool how that actually impacts, different places and different brands, how they go about doing that. And in this new modern society where we're talking about electric vehicles, just things like the charging ports, that's kind of amazing. I certainly know people that fly certain airlines only because they like the lounges, for certain ones.
Yeah.
So that's always interesting. Marketing in general is always a crazy thing when it comes to automotive things, especially when it comes to different countries, different societies. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's go back to something that I think that you're definitely an expert on, and that most people don't know about. I mean, it's design thinking. And people hear this all the time. They hear about the buzzwords. They're always just like, oh, they've heard of design thinking, but can you maybe explain to people who may not be familiar with what it is? What is it? What is design thinking?
Okay, first thing is a thinking, right? Okay, now before I answer that question, can I ask you one question?
Sure.
Now, yeah. So, can you tell me that have you ever noticed that through your experience using any products or services or any apps, you just wish that the service experience, the experience can be a little bit better or can be more convenient about something?
Yes. Yes, I have. I think everybody has, for sure. Yeah. I mean, especially with
Yeah.
what we do when it comes to benchmarking these HMI systems, and you could see for yourself, go to screensauto.com. You can check out all these different HMI systems, but there's always things that can be improved within those, for sure.
Yeah.
Did you need a specific example? Because
Okay. Let me add one example about the infotainment, the
okay.
screens. Okay. Yep. So um let's see like why some people will have a preference even to use their mobile phone for the navigation routing,
Hmm.
despite they have a touch screen in their car which can support the routing function as well.
Yeah.
Now, that's my own personal experience. I actually have a lot of experience related
Okay.
to that. Now, for example, at the time when I was working on as in the product marketing side, I once rented a competitor's vehicle,
Hmm.
and I want to get myself immersed in that kind of user experience, and so that I can speak firsthand, knowing about okay how good our experience designed has been designed versus others, right? So I rented that car and I drove to a mountain,
Hmm.
which is about over 300 kilometers away from Shanghai. Now, one thing I was really proud of what we have designed at that time is that we try to incorporate the charging partners. For example, the state grid, what kind of where the charging ports are supplied by the state grid are available,
Hmm.
incorporated into our the app, the mapping app that people can access in
Yeah.
the touch screen.
Yeah.
Now, I drove the I when I took that car, I was going to leave the airport. I took the car from the airport, the terminal, and I key in the destination. Now, what I was shown is that I was expected to drive to Suzhou,
Hmm.
get the car charged in the underground of a shopping mall, then continue my journey to the mountain.
Okay.
Now, I look at it, no way, I don't want to waste driving another 180 kilometers just for a charging. So,
Wow.
I pulled out my mobile phone
Hmm.
and I used State Grid. What the app I used is actually the State Grid app at that time.
Hmm.
Now, if you use the Baidu or Tencent mapping route today, that's those charging ports can also be can be located in that app as well. So
Hmm.
at that time, I pulled out my phone, opened the State Grid app, and I put in the end destination. So what I have been doing is that instead of going to Suzhou, I just charged the vehicle along the expressway.
Hmm.
I stopped after two stations. I stopped and charged the vehicle and then continued. And then when I arrived at the hotel, that's about 5 meters away from the hotel. There are 5 State Grid charging posts there.
Yeah.
The point is that the point I want to make is that when somebody drove his car and he sees the electricity has dropped to a certain time point, he needs to charge the car.
Hmm.
If they use the touch screen, they do not expect that I definitely need to go to the branded charging port.
No.
I would definitely go to the nearest charging
Yeah.
port. Where
This
is
the
the
nearest
nearest one?
one.
I will go there.
Yes.
Yeah. So so that's my experience. That
Yeah.
tells that how you keep the routing design in people's use of the app.
Mhm.
You can notice the pain point. Now you can keep it upgraded. Not only about the routing. Do you want the people like every time they go to the third party charging point? Do you want them to like scan a QR code, input their payment information, or is it better that you can incorporate the payment information into your app design? Make sure that is that people can just plug and charge and pay for the money automatically
Mhm.
instead of one more step. Yeah,
Yeah. So
that's
then,
way.
yeah.
Yeah,
So basically, the design thinking. First off, that's a great example. That's a fantastic example of finding a problem. And so you identify the problem, and then you basically explore ways to come up with solutions. Correct? Or
yes,
yeah.
yes. When we identify the problems, we explore the ways to solve the solution. But what I want to add is that we can leverage technology to find a solution, and most often than not, the solution is driven by the technology change. But technology alone is not enough. If it's enough, then we will be riding the segways and playing with the robot dogs today, right? But so so besides the technical feasibility, there's another 2 points, like how you can make it financially feasible, as well as the solution is desirable in people's view, in people's eyes. So altogether, the desirability, the feasibility, the availability, solution availability, altogether, that's the three dimensions we will need to consider:
Mhm.
technology, financial sustainability, and um, the availability of the solution. Yeah.
How do you think design thinking can be applied to, when it comes to marketing, like electric vehicles? I mean, I know there's a big
Yeah.
difference in marketing, and this is probably a twofold question. It's more about,
Yeah.
hey, how do you market? First off, what are the challenges with electric vehicles in marketing, and how can you
Okay.
use design thinking to actually solve some of those issues?
Okay. Okay. It's really a twofold question.
It is. It is.
Yeah. If I forgot the second question, please
No
remind me.
worries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. The first one is about the challenges in
Mm.
marketing our electric vehicle. So now back to the framework, the 4P framework. It is the marketing. It's really not only about the marketing communication, and surely that's for us to do a good, successful marketing communication. That's the person who is in charge of that. They will need to have a deep understanding to know about what's the product, how the product added the value, and then what's the price you want to like use the price to convey your positioning. Now, I think at the time when we launched the electrical vehicle, um, at that time is that the consumers have already received a certain level of the education about the new products. If we regarded the electric vehicle as a new product at that time, so for every new product to be launched, there will be the education effort. And what was happening at that time is that people already have some education, received some education about that.
Yeah.
But at that time, because of the different the ways that all those startups have been communicated their products, people tend to think some of the numbers, a lot of things has been numbered. For example, people have impression about the level 2, level 3, level 4, but they actually do not fully they still need the time to really understand how realistically those advanced technology can be available. So, for example, when I was meeting with the media person at that time, so some of the media will just ask me and other colleagues, saying, "Do you have level 4 technology?
Wow.
Do you
Yeah.
have the level 4 ADAS technology?" So it requires effort how to artistically convey the truth while let people educate consumers about your product while still keeping the brand narrative in control is something that every marketing person will need to think. Now, if you talk about the challenges, and I think that today the challenge will be more complex. Now, why I say that, let me give you one example. Now, in the past couple of years, a lot of new startups have started. Some of the startups, if you look at them, they previously have been worked on the mobile phone or worked on the web appliance. So they have built their capability in optimizing their supply chain. So people have a perception about it. Say, okay, what they have done is value for money. So I buy your mobile. Your mobile is support meets my needs. The functions are good, but it is also much cheaper than other like Apple, right?
Yeah.
So there. Some of the startups as they are aiming to enter the electrical vehicle. We say this route. Let's say is this route. Now in this year, starting from March, OpenAI has been widely talked about it.
Yeah.
People have been talking about the AI, the
ChatGPT
generative AI, ChatGPT, a lot of things, right? Like not only Google, Apple, they have been talking about how they have anticipated about the infotainment system, how they can play a part in the auto industry. Like in China, we also have other partners to work on it. So this is a real story that just happened in the past I think 1 month. Now, one of the brand who previously did the mobile, they want to enter into the electrical vehicle. Now, how should they position their brand? How should they position their product? Of course, people have anticipation about how much the price will be, right? Is it below 100,000 RMB or is it below 200,000 RMB? People have anticipation. So somehow in their mobile phone, just like we have Hey Siri, right? We have the virtual personal assistant. So somebody played with curiosity, asked the virtual personal assistant in their mobile phone and also say, how much price will this brand launch their product when it was available in 2024?
Yeah.
Now,
did they get an honest answer from this thing? Like that?
Yeah, they got an answer. It turned out to be like a kind of the crisis for public communications to manage, right?
Yeah.
Because the answer was to say, okay, the virtual personal assistant said, okay, I think what I know is that when the brand launched a product with 800 kilometers range, the price will be this.
Yeah.
Now,
so it used logic to come up with the answer, but I love how somebody basically said it couldn't hurt but to ask.
Yeah, they asked the question, what's the virtual personal assistant, the answer, how the virtual personal assistant has generated is actually from the machine learning algorithm behind. So okay, this I think from this story we can walk away a lot of key points. Now, key learnings. So the answer, just because somebody like the self media. Now everybody we as long as you have a phone, you have a Wi-Fi, you can access network, you can do the self media, right? So because somebody wrote an article, published it in the internet, and he declared that based on his anticipation, this brand will position their product in this way, and the price will be in this way, and that message just like the search ranking, like that message was crawled and collected by the algorithm, and then the virtual personal assistant just used that as an answer. So in the end, that's the brand, the spokesperson from the brand have to come out and say,
Yeah.
okay, our virtual personal assistant, he does not know everything. He's only 6 years old.
Yeah.
The answer was because of this. Now,
He was just
now
joking.
that's
It was a joke.
yeah, he's just joking. So, but from this story, you can tell that's how much the challenge
Yeah.
when we not only the offline, how we design our offline experience, how we design our online experience, how we make sure that's the what people talk about us is towards the direction that we want them to take. It's definitely a challenge. And I think that's the in a world that people can opt in and opt out from following a brand, how to get back to the core and talk about your brand promise, why your brand need to exist, and use whatever the experience, design, the brand management skills, and make sure that is instilled in every part of the organization. So whenever a touch point happens with the consumers, the the brand identity was well conveyed. That's a bigger challenge.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about the way that it's just you're right. Technology will dictate even further challenges. You've got assistants basically leaking prices that aren't true, and then you have to come out and either say yeah, or I guess that's the price now, or you come out and have to say a statement that no, that's not it. I'm also wondering, and you brought up a good point earlier about the ADAS systems. How much of an ethical responsibility do you have when it comes to marketing? Because what you want to do is obviously position your brand to be as successful as possible. But there's this term that has recently come up that's autono washing, where it's basically saying that your capabilities are better than they actually are. So for example, you would have a car that you would say is almost level 3 automation when it's really only capable of like level 2. So when you market something, how much of a challenge, or how much is it? How much of the ethical responsibility lies in that?
That's a really, really, very good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, when somebody else claims that they're like level 3 capability and we only have the level 2 capability, it's kind of like putting ourselves at a disadvantage at the beginning. But the fact is that it's easy to ruin the trust. It's difficult to build the trust. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, when we look at the startup, and I think not every startup has done a similar way, right? Now, if I'm a startup, the default for startup is to fail because you need to prove yourself. So it's not a surprise that some startups would want to communicate their products like much more powerful than it can be. In that case, when a trust is ruined, how many people will continue to buy from that brand, right? Now, when we talk about autonomous driving assistant technology, fundamentally, we first need to be respectful to people's experience, and when they drive a car, the car can be broken down, there can be accident, right? How you can make sure the fundamental of ADAS driving is to help people drive with ease, but as the prerequisite is that safety should always come first. So instead of telling people that, okay, you buy my car, you can leave your hands off the wheel totally. The system was designed that the wheel will feel whether you have a force on the wheel. That's the signal to tell the computer whether you are driving on it. If you want to save your time, you can pour over something and put it on the wheel. So the computer will still thought that you are driving it.
Mhm.
That's a short-term view. In case of any accident have happened, how much effort does it take for the brand to rebuild their trust?
Yeah.
Okay? Now, I think that's um, I think that's for premium brand, for the brand that people initially have naturally drawn to because it looks cool. People will give it a more benefit of a doubt.
Mm.
But if the brand does not make efforts to sustain the trust, in the end, it's never helpful for the brand
Yeah.
at all.
It's going to
The
suffer.
brand, yeah, going to suffer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. I mean, this all goes back to, the great conversation we've had over the show about the perceived quality of things, but also the brand loyalty and all of that. It's crazy how it all ties in together. It looks like we're out of time, and we could talk about this all day, especially this last part. But we'll have to have you back on the show, and we can talk more about some different topics for sure. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It was a
Thank you
pleasure
so much
speaking
for
with you.
having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you so much again. For everybody at home, go to screensauto.com. You can see some of the stuff we were talking about, especially we've got over 100 cars. We have U.S. cars, European cars. We've got Chinese cars. You can definitely compare and contrast there. You can listen to the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, you name it. Go for it. Just look up at the Screens Podcast. Once again, I'd like to thank Victoria Lee for coming on the show. And everybody, have a great day.